Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlot Banter. My name is Sucker Hazel, and today I'm joined by my co-host Tanner Dykstra, who has really outstayed his welcome. And today we are here to talk about Scream 7, the long-awaited sequel. Whatever. Tanner, we reviewed these other movies, and you actually, I'm
True.
gonna be honest, you're the biggest Scream fan that I know. You like ride
Yeah.
and die for Scream
Oh, yeah.
1 specifically. But you're just a
One
fan
of
of
my
the
favorite movies
franchise
of all
overall.
time.
And,
Yeah.
but you're one of a fan of the franchise overall, and you were there day one to see this movie.
Mm.
I want to hear your thoughts on Scream 7, Tanner.
Tucker, you introduced me by saying I've overstayed my welcome, which is a cheeky little nod towards your feelings on Scream 7. And I would say that broadly, I'm not even going to say broadly, I agree with you,
Yeah,
Tucker.
yeah,
This franchise, this series, has fully run its course. It has run out of steam, and I mean, this is a total running into a brick wall at the dead end, at the dead end of an alley when Ghostface is chasing you, dude. This series has no ideas left. And I think it's really a really damning indictment, especially when all of the outside circumstances that influenced this movie being the way it is. We completely excise most of the two main stars, or two young stars that were
yeah.
in Scream 5 and Scream 6, completely leaving this whatever plot line or whatever end goal we had in mind for a trilogy in the wind. And what we do is we bring back Nev Campbell, and this movie, it feels it needs to like grovel and worship at the feet of Nev Campbell. Be like, oh, we brought her back. We're so sorry, Nev Campbell. We're so sorry we excised you from the series. And what does it do? It gives her the most milk toast, nothing, boring ass Scream movie return legacy sequel nothingness that it
Yeah.
possibly could.
It's a shocker, frankly. The movie actually iterates a number of times from the Ghostface killer's sort of taunting and other characters being like, man, the two returning stars of this, Nev Campbell and Sidney Prescott and
Courtney Cox,
Yeah,
yeah.
and Gail Weathers. They lost their spunk. They're kind of has-beens. Like, people don't care as much anymore. And the characters are like kind of thinking about that. And one of the last lines of the movie is Sidney Prescott being like, lost my spark? Like, no way. and I'm sitting there, I'm like, no, they're right. Like, I no shade to the actresses playing these characters, but these
Hmm.
characters are tired. They're not particularly interesting anymore. The legacy is all this movie has going for it, and it just
Hmm.
has it's a legacy sequel in the most bare bones sense possible, and that's the most disappointing part. A dumb screenplay, forgettable characters. I can forgive that in a lot of horror movies, but the
Hmm.
fact that Scream is what Scream is and has is what
Absolutely.
Scream was and had the identity of being something that was a little bit more smart, a
A
little bit
cut
more
above,
funny, a little
yeah.
bit more biting, a little bit more
Hmm.
reflective than other horror movies. I was flabbergasted when okay, the opening scene. Okay, it's a little play on thing. I'm actually fine with the opening
Yeah,
scene,
we're
but
doing like an Airbnb kind of thing. It's
yeah,
like, okay, yeah, I get this is operating in the very same realm as like Scream 2022 and Scream
sure,
6 were,
yeah,
where like, okay, we're coming at this from a 2020s perspective of like, an amalgamation. This is a blending of like real world attitudes towards like true crime and fandom of horror
yes,
movies with the trauma that real characters have experienced, and like these things became popular movies, popular works in universe.
yes,
Like we're blending those things together to satirize horror movies and
yeah.
satirize the society's feelings as a whole around crime and
Yeah,
horror.
and Tanner, I would say, and I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Hmm.
I think it's the last moment the movie has any like satire in it, and when we transition to just like, hey, Sidney Prescott is running a coffee shop and has a daughter now. I'm like, oh, this is just a legacy sequel, in the way that almost every long-running horror franchise in the 2010s or 2020s got a legacy sequel, and
Yeah.
they don't take it any particular direction. It's
No,
just a slasher now. There's nothing funny about it. It's so weird.
what the real, because this is why I love Scream so much, the first one, and like Screams 2 and 3, and why I really like Scream, the reboot from
Mhm.
2022, which I've been
Just call it
fumbling
Scream
with the name
5.
of. Like, it's Scream 5. That's what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do. That's why I really love that one. I love the original trilogy. I even like some aspects of 4. for some reasons. But the thing I always love about Scream is exactly what you're talking about, Tucker. Is in what ways are we skewering, satirizing, continuing to improve upon or iterate upon the idea of this series being a meta commentary on slasher movies,
True.
on horror movies, and meditation on the society's feelings towards these things, as I already mentioned. And in Scream 7 and Loki in Scream 6, but though that is not a movie that we are talking about here
Yeah.
today, I feel like we've run out of gas there.
Sure.
Like it's like that is why Scream 5 was like the perfect idea to like bring something like that back because there's so much material to
Yeah. Yeah.
chew
Of course.
through. But the issue is that outside
They
of
chewed
doing
through
a
it,
lit,
Tanner. This is
they chewed through it.
this is baby bird food. This is like which chewed up and
Exactly.
spat out.
And I think it's so emblematic when our characters who do return outside of our legacy characters are Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown,
Yeah.
who play. Do you remember the characters' names, Tucker?
The fucking
They're like
twins, Tanner. Hmm.
they're the twins. They're the nephew and niece of Randy Meeks
Yes.
from Jamie Kennedy's character from the first films. And their whole role is what his role was. They are people who love horror movies and analyze the patterns of the killer, of the Ghostface killer in the movie, and be like, oh, it is matching to these beats, these rhythms in horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's what made their characters really distinct and fun in
Yeah.
Scream 5, and what gives them nothing to do and an exponentially less to do in Scream 6 and 7.
Yes.
When they get in this bar, we're just all over the place in
Yeah.
this
Yeah. It's
review. Who
fine. It's
gives a
fine.
fuck? When they're in like the bar or the pizza parlor or whatever in this, and they're like, who's the killer or whatever, I'm like, nothing that any character is saying in the scene makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let alone the other characters outside of them being complete
Oh my fucking
facsimile,
god.
cardboard cutout,
Jesus
nothing
Christ.
characters.
Well, because
Yeah.
this movie is trying to do two things at once. It's trying to, in some way, maintain the youthful energy that brought the Scream franchise back to prominence with 5 and 6
Yes.
by maintaining these two twin characters, by introducing a whole slate of high school age characters. And what it's much more concerned with is Gale Weathers, small G,
Yes.
and Sidney Prescott, gigantic capital S, Sydney.
Yes.
And but don't do the kids. Like this movie, like is so concerned with her daughter and her relationship with Sydney, and so they give the daughter like a massive slate of supporting characters that the movie is just not concerned with in the goddamn slightest until
No.
they are all one by one picked off in one scene. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is the point of this? Those
here's the thing,
characters are so bad.
I understand. I understand the point. It's the point of all of these types of characters in any slasher movie is that they are the fodder. They're
Yeah,
the
yes.
they're the kids that the teens that we need to burn through for your kills or whatever. And like I got no bones about that. But my issue here is that because this is a Scream movie, there almost seems to be a sighing resignation from these
Sure.
characters
Yeah.
that they are going to die. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is this? It's not like funny. It's just something that both like the screenplay and the audience recognize about these characters, and the screenwriters
Yeah,
recognize
yeah.
the audience knows. So like, well, why do we need to try with them?
Yes, and that leads to another element of this movie that was like one of the last things that you and I talked about before we did this review is
Hmm.
that they're so up their ass about legacy in this movie, and they can't kill off any important character. I mean,
No.
it is mind-boggling that some of the situations and the wounds a number of the decently important
Hmm.
characters sustain in this movie. Primarily, Sydney's husband and then the two twins are
Yes.
both attacked quite severely by the Ghostface killers, and none of them die. The worst is
No.
that the father's like sent off to a hospital to recover.
When so first of all, Joel McHale plays Sydney's new husband, who's like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
police chief in this. Like I think they're in Indiana or something in this
Yeah.
movie. They've relocated, and he gets attacked in like this the remodel that they're doing for their garage, and he gets fucked up.
Oh,
He gets
oh, yeah.
wrapped in plastic. He gets stabbed a billion times. He gets fucking hit in the head with a hammer or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all this shit happens to him. It's like okay, that guy's dead. But then at the
Yeah,
end,
and then
when
you're
we're
thinking
doing
to
our
yourself,
killer
how
reviews,
is Sydney going to reconcile with this?
exactly,
An
yeah.
important person close to her killed
Mhm.
again after all these years.
When they drag him out on the plastic, I'm like, okay, they're taunting him with her with his body, and then he goes. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me! What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah. But
Scream,
even then,
what
like
Scream?
even in that
Yeah.
moment, you're like, okay, well they could like step on his head or like stab him again and
Mhm.
like actually kill him in front of them. Maybe that's a way to make this. Oh, he survived, but like we're gonna rub it in their faces. The movie's too much of a pussy to do anything about this singing character.
Remember one of the things I'll always remember in Scream 2 is when one of my favorite characters in the entire series that I've already invoked, Randy dies. He's like, the key, he's the explainer, he's the movie nerd, he's the one who explains how things are gonna go down, and he gets killed. They kill him off like in the middle of the second movie. I was like, this is what makes this series, at least this original trilogy, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
compelling and interesting, is that they are willing to do shit like that, and they're just not willing to do anything like that. The last important character that died in a Scream movie was in Scream 5
It was
when
Dewey.
Dewey
Yeah, it
died.
was Dewey. Yeah, I was thinking about that as I left the movie because I mentioned the twins and the husband, who are decently important characters
Hmm.
and who get injured but survive. And I'm like rolling my eyes at like, okay, at least kill off one of the twins, or at least kill off the husband. Jesus, but
Hmm.
Tanner, Sydney, her daughter Tatum, and Gail barely even get hurt in this movie. They're
Yeah.
running around, they're being chased, they're doing all this stuff, they're stabbed at, there's scratches on their arm or whatever.
Hmm.
But like you they're fine. And and
They're
and, and,
fine.
and I mentioned this. The gigantic capital S Sydney and the small G
Yeah.
Gale.
Yeah.
Gail Weathers has dick all to do in this movie.
Truly.
She speeds into the film. She crashes into the film, and she's like,
Literally.
and she has her
Saunters
swagger,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she's like, oh, I'm Gail Weathers. I'm gonna really like
Yeah.
bring some energy to this. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's see where we go with this. And then she like calms down like immediately, and then the two of
Hmm.
them have like a little bit of back and forth, but then she's gone for the last act of the movie. I'm like, why did you introduce this character and like reunite them and introduce this tension between the two of them? I was like,
Yeah,
it's
the
been a long
tension,
time. Do they trust one another? And then
this
she's not in
TV
the final act.
this TV interview scene, which is so bizarre that Gail has she's a cutthroat reporter. Like
Yeah.
that's been her whole deal since the very first Scream movie, and she's really not chilled out in the 30 years since. And I'm like, okay, I can respect that. Like it is a consistent characterization for her. That despite everything that she's been through, she cannot stop, being the provocateur reporter. Okay, sure. And so Sydney's finally gonna give her the one-on-one interview that Gail's wanted for 30 years.
Okay,
And so
sure.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, and Sydney says, "Are you gonna go easy on me?" And Gail says, "No way." I was like, okay, this is fun little back and forth banter between these two characters. But then Gail is truly and honestly asking nasty and cutting questions to Sydney live on air for the purposes of
Live on air to
is
like
it
no one, by the way.
yeah, who
Like
the fuck is watching this?
it's like the middle of the night in like yuppie small town like
Uh-huh.
hipster coffee America. What the fuck
Yeah,
is
we're
this
we're in
stupid
like a
town?
suburb of like Indianapolis or some shit. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. They
But like
presented it's like a small town, but then everyone's just like affluent. It's like what the? This is not. It doesn't feel like a small town. What the fuck is this place?
but anyway, like, to what end is Gail doing this? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
not even. I mean,
To
is it
like
meant
satisfy
to?
her own curiosity, I guess.
Is it meant to like provoke the Ghostface killer that he's seeing this happen? Like that's unclear. And also, this is part of the text conversation that we had going before we started recording here. There is no reconciliation on the back end of this
No,
movie of
no.
that. Sydney just forgives Gail for saying that stuff after they've killed the Ghostface killers
Yeah.
and dusted their hands of the whole thing.
It's a soft Scream movie. That's the honest to God truth. They set up these things. I'm like, okay, where are you gonna go with that? And this movie really falls apart in the last act. I mean,
Yeah.
all the things that I can criticize about it being kind of bland and safe for that first bit, it like torpedoes in the last act with Tanner easily, by far, the
Oh yeah.
weakest Scream killers, Ghostface killers that you've ever conceived of in your entire life. I mean,
Hmm.
when the mask comes off and it's a guy from the asylum. I'm like, I forgot. I'm like, okay, so I remember there's like people working at the school, people working at the asylum, people visiting the coffee
Yeah.
shop, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no way that it's going to be one of them because they're so passing that they made no impact on me. I forgot who he was when he took off the mask.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they, then there's a second killer. Okay, it's Scream. There's a second killer, which
Uh-huh.
they revealed like 3 minutes before the final scene. I'm like, okay, fuck you.
Right, right.
And then it's the neighbor who I
Yeah.
recognized, but I'm gonna be honest, Tanner. The way they like revealed it, I thought that it was gonna be like somehow Tatum had survived. And she was
Oh,
like harboring this because
sure.
they keep talking about Tatum, this person that we cared
Uh-huh.
so much about that is like a side character in the first movie.
Who has never been brought up at
No,
all
no,
in any of the previous
yeah,
Scream
no.
movies, of
But
course.
I'm like my mind was like, okay, blonde woman, take off the mask. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna do
Tatum.
something here
Uh,
in some way, tied to this legacy, tied to
yeah.
the impact of this. And then it's this wet blanket fucking random woman who goes on this gigantic fucking tirade about this
Mhm.
book and like moving around and being obsessed and Sydney like abandoning her or something. Like, what? What the fuck is this? I still don't know
Beyond
who you
it
are, and you just talked to me for 5 minutes.
Beyond it being, I think people have like clocked the numbers. It is by far the Ghostface reveal character with the least amount of
Oh,
screen
I'm
time in
sure.
the rest of the
I'm
movie.
sure.
Yeah, and it is by far the worst killer reveal in the entire series. Laurie Metcalf in Scream 2 and Timothy Olyphant in Scream 2 can pass that crown down after 20 odd years now. Um, but beyond all the being a nonsensical killer reveal with this incredibly sweaty and long-winded expositional thing that I think Anna Camp, the actress who plays this neighbor woman, I think she's fun enough doing this
Sure.
manic
Yeah.
material,
But also,
doing
again,
this
comes out
explanation.
of nowhere. No
Yeah,
hints at
exactly.
that in the character
No, 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 no.
beforehand. God.
The writing is total just gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Outside of all of that, it is all hinged upon this character feeling betrayed that Sydney wasn't in Scream 6. That is ultimately what
Oh,
the killer's like hang up
yeah. I
is
guess
that
that's right.
you weren't in New York, Sydney. You weren't there when a Scream movie was happening, Sydney. And so I went crazy and I'm making a Scream movie happen now,
Hmm.
which is a really insidious
Sure.
sort of
I'm
like
gonna be honest here. I
implication.
didn't even pick up on that. Like, I remember
Yeah,
her mentioning New York, but I couldn't tell why she was
yeah,
mad.
it's just a really mean and nasty and insidious thing for the writers to put
Sure.
into this
Yeah.
movie that
Yeah.
they had to rewrite after Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega both. I mean, Melissa Barrera fired and Jenna Ortega left in
Yeah.
solidarity. To
And
be
the
clear,
and the directors of Scream 5 and
and the
6.
director, yeah, well, yeah, because I also forgot that there was another director. Christopher Landon was supposed to
Hmm.
direct this film, not
Kevin
Gillett and
Williamson.
Bettinelli
Oh,
Olpin. Yeah,
and then we got Kevin Williamson.
and then we got Kevin Williamson, who stepped in at the last second, coming hot off his directorial debut 25 years ago of teaching Mrs. Tingle.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's bad.
Anyway,
It's bad. No, here's a question, Tanner.
mhm.
Are there any redeeming elements of Scream 7?
I think there are two good kills in it
Okay.
for whatever that's
Sure.
worth.
Yeah.
For if you're slasher fans are always like, we're like, well, the kills, there's some kills in there.
Yeah.
The McKenna Grace kill
Yeah.
is pretty
Oh, yeah.
fun, I would say.
Mhm.
She's swinging back and forth and holding the knife up and stuff like that. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And then they do the silhouette shot, which is pretty heavy handed, being like, look at this cool shot. But I'm like, yeah,
You're right.
it's
Yeah.
something. It's
You're
something.
right. It is a cool shot.
Um, and then
You're right. I've never seen anything like that before. Good job, Scream.
yeah. And then I got to get this kid's name. The Lucas Bowden, the
Oh,
sort of
sure.
fake out true crime addict kid
Yeah.
who's like a
From Gen V,
real like.
Tanner. Have you seen Gen
Oh, is
V?
he from Gen V?
Yeah.
No, I haven't, but it's interesting. He's the kid that has like the sunken kind of bags
Yeah.
under his eyes look. Where it's like this kid. They're trying to clearly make me think that
I'm
this kid
not
is the
falling for
killer.
it. Fuck you,
Exactly.
Scream
I've
7.
seen 6 Scream movies. I know that the people that you're telling me are the
Yeah,
killer
yeah.
are not the killer.
But then again, then that conversation, the only moment where they're like trying to recapture some of that energy with the twins,
Yeah.
where they're like, "Oh, okay, here's what it is," and they're
Creepy
like on this,
kid. Yeah.
and the movie's like, "Nah." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
There's a
you're right," and then they just
well, there's
die.
a. I want to talk about that in a second, but the last kill is when he gets his head spiked on the like the
Beer
beer
tap.
tap or
Yeah,
whatever. No, it's
that's
like
kind of
yeah,
fun.
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool, and yeah, it's like those are truly like the two things where I was like, pretty neat, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the material
Hmm.
the material between Sydney and Tatum, her daughter. Um, I think there was an idea there that is, of course, not well thought out or seeded through correctly throughout.
Sure.
But I'm like the idea of which is a very Halloween 2018 idea of like I went through this trauma, so I am being both very protective of you by being a helicopter mom thing, but also not wanting to like make you to, like teach you self defense or make you think about these things or think about my past or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like it's a tough situation for a mother and daughter to be in, for a parent and child to be in, where the child then feels like overprotected but also pushed to an arm's length. Like it is an idea that they set up, I would say, and they always talk about, but you never feel in the text outside of the
Yeah.
characters saying like, "You make me feel this way, mom," and then mom being like, "Why do you feel this way? I'm so frustrated that I make you feel this way."
Yeah. No, it's really weird, and my issue with it is that the movie tries to have its cake and eat its too with specifically the way that Sydney's character has evolved over these years. When you think about the ways that legacy characters have been impacted, especially in horror movies, I think this is one of the least interesting outcomes because she's like half and half. She has this. I'm really impacted by this. I can't stop thinking about it. I have a gigantic lockbox safe room in my house. Like my shit's been like booby trapped ostensibly so I can get out. I keep a gun in like the thing in my car. Like that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
did you get it
Hmm.
custom made? That's fucking wild. And like she wants her kids to have like bags packed so they can run at any
Hmm.
moment. I'm like, okay, you have this element of the character, but also she's like, no, actually, that's all in the past. Like, I'm not trying not to think about it anymore. I'm just running my coffee shop. Like, she doesn't have any particular strong personality point other than she went through this in the past, which is the weakest way to
Hmm.
deal with a legacy sequel. I think that the characters that are sincerely impacted by it and really it's like a huge amount of baggage that impacts their life in like a negative way, that is maybe more trite or well trodden, but for a person and for frankly a character, it's a lot more interesting to follow. When the amount to which Jamie Lee Curtis's character in Halloween 2018 has isolated herself and literally booby trapped her, and she's got like
Hmm.
shotguns and stuff, and she's like an army still soldier, or like
Yeah.
or the way that Maverick in Top Gun is like
Hmm.
complete like he does not know how to interact with people, like he's just like shut himself off, like she's just like a suburban white mom. Like she's
and,
just a
and, and here's the
fucking
thing.
woman.
And here's the thing, because
Everyone
us
talks
talking
about
about
like,
this,
oh my god, Sidney Prescott, the great Sidney Prescott.
yeah.
I'm like, she's just a woman. There's nothing interesting about her.
And here's and here's my thing with that. Us talking about it, I was like, there is a version of this film, a better version, I think, that like really leans into this modern phenomena of like of suburban paranoia,
Hmm,
especially coming from like white waspy moms who live in
sure.
the suburbs. They're 35 minutes outside of a mid-sized city, and they're convinced that like armed thugs are going to come and break down their door every single night.
This movie has no interest in that.
There's an entire TikTok economy of like self-defense, items and strategies and stuff like that
Huh,
to
didn't know about
prevent
that.
this strange paranoia that is infecting the minds of suburban people. But this movie could have done something with that, and I think ironically, like just thinking about it, Halloween 2018 does a better like satirization of that than this movie does. You remember the kill in Halloween 2018 where that woman has that like giant revolver in her like minivan or whatever, and Michael Myers just like pushes the door and she accidentally shoots herself in the head or whatever. Like that is a better satirization of like the over preparedness and the ultimate under preparedness of you for violent situations than that. Like that's way better than anything this movie attempts, does, or thinks about.
Yeah, I mean it's just weak all around. I think that it waters down Sydney. I think it underutilizes Gale. I think it totally forgets about the twins who are, I think, fun characters, and I actually one of the highlights of the recent movies. I think that for me why I personally prefer Scream 5 and 6 is that while it's a little bit corny that all four characters survived both movies, I'm like, you're building up a little group here. These characters have a fun
Hmm.
interplay dynamic. They are totally unique from the characters that came before. And so, like, this movie feels like, well, okay, it's Scream 7, which means it's a sequel to Scream 6. So we've got to have some of the characters. And so it gives them this role that they're, like, helping out Gail, doesn't explore that at all. And then they're barely involved in the movie. And then they get hurt. And then they are gone for the rest of it. And I'm like, honest to God, Sydney Prescott and her daughter, who is also just like a no personality wet blanket, are the
Truly,
only
yeah.
meaningful characters in this movie that the movie like legitimately utilizes screen time for. I think that
Hmm.
they don't explore anything interesting development wise or relationship wise with her husband. I was very surprised that didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Gail is totally underutilized. All of the actual side characters, supporting cast, are just nothing characters. No one will ever remember them. The killers are bad. The
Hmm.
opening salvo characters are not interesting. Like, I don't know how they did it. They actually made a Scream movie with no interesting characters. The only ones that you will remember are the two from previous movies, and
Yeah, the four from
they're
previous movies.
I sure, yeah, I guess so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the daughter, and let's talk about the other cameos, and then we'll get the hell out of Dodge.
Oh, sure, 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 sure. Yeah, I mean, the daughter. The thing that kills me the most with that is the very first time we were introduced to her is this, very familiar, row between a mother and a teenage daughter, and we're doing a thing where like her boyfriend sneaks in the window. It's mirroring Billy Loomis sneaking into Sydney's window in the very first movie or whatever. And so you're immediately on edge, like, oh, is this guy a fucking scream killer? But my and this is a broader issue across the entire film, including the cameo that we'll be talking about, that like this movie feels the need to lampshade so much and
Mm.
by having the characters where it's like, well, the characters can't not point this out because then otherwise the
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
might
yeah.
think they're stupid for having gone through all this stuff and not pointing it out. So City immediately sees this and he's like, well, my boyfriend was a murderer and he snuck through my window, but and I was like, yeah, I know. And her daughter's like, yeah, mom, I know. You talk about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you're like, okay, I get a sense for the butting heads, the tension that exists between Sydney and her daughter. But then the characterization that we are clued into about Tatum for the
Yes.
rest of the movie is that she is like cowardly and
Yeah.
non-confrontational and everything. I was like, where is that at all in the movie again, outside of characters saying that
Yeah,
about her?
they say it a lot, yes, but she holds her own decently
Yeah.
well. And she's afraid, but she fights back. Um, yeah, and that's kind of all she does. You're right. The movie kind of tries to play these two sides of like that because her mom is too overprotective. She doesn't go out very much. But she's got a good group of friends.
She's got a good group of
And
friends.
and we don't
She
see that.
argues with her mom all the time.
Yeah,
Like I'm
we
like,
don't
where
see
is
that
the
she's particularly
non-confrontation?
popular or unpopular. She's
Yeah.
conventionally attractive, but she's also like shy and maybe a little bit nerdy. But we don't get enough of like what her
She,
interests
yeah,
are or her
she's
history
got
to
a
like.
boyfriend. She's interested in
Yeah,
extracurricular. She gets invited to parties. Of like, she seems like a pretty normal kid, all things considered.
yeah.
But no, we
But
are
but
we are.
but normal to the point where I'm
Mhm.
like, what? I
What
take nothing away
what
from this
about her?
character. Like,
Yeah.
what is her character trait other than being the daughter of Sidney Prescott, which the movie is very very concerned with, and to the point where it's like, the only internally coherent vision this movie has is that Sidney Prescott has a daughter and they have a dynamic, and I think that that's what the movie explores. I'm not saying they do that particularly well or particularly interestingly, but it's the only thing that this movie is consistent about, and it puts time into actually looking into.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll get out of town. We'll get out of Dodge here a second, Tucker. Matthew Lillard is in the
He
movie
is.
on TVs and phones and computer screens.
Yes.
It is what he is relegated to. I said Randy Meeks is like my favorite character out of the Scream franchise. Stu Macher is a close second. I love Matthew Lillard's performance in that first movie so much. And of course, he has risen to prominence again in recent years with his presence in like the Five Nights at Freddy's movies and everything, and people having a growing nostalgia for the Scream movies and really appreciating the like manic, fun, comedic work that he's doing in those. And so it seemed, and he had a escapable death in that first one. You know, they say it a number of times that they had the TV fell on it, crushed his head or whatever, and you're like, okay, that is a serious injury, but not something that like would abjectly kill a character. So if you're going to bring back any legacy character that has not been in the Scream films so far, you're like Matthew Lillard as Stu Macher would make sense,
Yeah.
and the character, the mystery of the movie is drafting on that, on the possibility that Stu could have survived. And they keep giving you little things like, well, you know, the autopsy report was like destroyed or whatever, and the we don't know what happened to these records or whatever, which is all fine and good if you want to, you know, wrong foot me and lead me down a path. But then at the same time, do not give me your ultimate answer immediately from the moment that he is introduced, which is that he is an AI avatar. That
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
ultimate, you know, that is what he is. Stu Macher is dead, and the Matthew Lillard that we see in the movie is an AI avatar.
It's an AI avatar of a guy who, as far as we know, died 30 years ago, never got the chance to age up because he died, or at
Yeah,
least no one saw him, and never had scars. And so they create from what? From which pictures?
I
He
don't
he
know.
hasn't been alive in the modern age where high resolution images of Stu
Yeah.
Macher, of aged middle-aged Stu Macher would exist. So how did they do it? Doesn't make any sense. And I'm being totally honest.
hmm
From the moment they're like, okay, Stu is calling. I'm not hiding this time, Sydney. That kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay. I'm running through the options in my head. I'm like, okay, AI deepfake. All right. So that means someone else is him. Uh, just make the Scream twist that you knew it the whole time, and that he was alive, and that he is out
Yeah.
there in the streets, mask off, like why not? That dynamic play into the fact that he's going specifically after her
hmm
daughter to get back at her, like, and that makes sense from the first movie. Like, instead they just totally subvert that by making him an AI thing, and I'm like, what? Why bother? Because he, as bringing back a character from a first movie and saying they were actually alive the
hmm
whole time and making them the killer, sure, you've done that before. That's still way the fuck more interesting than the neighbor was mad about a book or whatever the fuck. Like,
Yeah, whatever the fuck we land on here.
and then you get to use more Matthew Lillard, who's really fun in this movie in
Really,
the moments
yeah.
that he gets to show up, and like
Mhm.
he's like the only campy energy that this movie still has in it.
But yeah, for me it's totally subdued because it's all our characters like crowding around like a phone and watching
Sure,
him or
yeah,
whatever
fair
the
enough,
fuck. It
yeah,
was like this totally hamstrings anything
yeah,
Matthew
yeah,
Lillard is doing because I'm just doing this. We're just watching him like this.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, it's not good. It's not a good utilization. And you burned the fucking Stu Macher thing. Like if in Scream 8 they're like, wait, Stu's back again or whatever. If that's ultimately revealed, it's like, you burned that bridge already. You already spent the credits on
Oh, I see.
the
Yeah,
surprise.
I thought you
On
meant they
bringing
burned the
Lola back.
Stumacher house, which they also did.
They also do that,
Yeah.
but I'm like, you used it up already. So I think they shot themselves in the foot here and down the line if they ever truly do want to bring back, you know, him as the killer or whatever. Yeah, this is a really really bad movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's irredeemable for the context of Scream. I mean, it's ultimately, like, as a slasher, it's not one of the worst I've ever seen. It's
Yeah, of course.
competent, but it is insulting to the legacy of the series that also Kevin Williamson helped create. I don't understand
Yeah,
how he lost the
he
plot
is a
of his own
yeah
vision. So, like,
yeah.
so far, like, it's just like this could have been directed by fucking anyone. And then you look into the legacy of it, and you're like, this guy wrote Scream 1? What?
He is
I,
he is like a creative force behind the entire series. He's a writer and producer on every single Scream movie.
oh, really? I didn't know it went that far.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's like been with this series from the very
yeah,
beginning, and
yeah,
it works on all of these things or whatever. Like it is kind of like he has effectively become the steward of the
yeah,
Scream
yes, yeah,
franchise, and so like he steps in and completely fucking bungles and you know fucks this movie up
yeah,
to the deepest core.
yeah. And to that point, it's just easily the weakest one. Like, I really feel like
Yeah.
if you ask 100 Scream fans, 100 of them will tell you that Scream 7 is the weakest one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so obvious. It's like wow. Like, and honestly, so I saw this a little bit later than you guys. I didn't get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see it when
yeah.
it came out. And when I saw like 2 out of 10s, 3 out of 10s coming from you guys, I was like, no way. Like, oh come on. Like I usually am a little bit more positive on movies. I'm like,
Right,
I'll
right,
have
right.
fine. Like this will be at least a 5. No, like it's just I
It's
can't
not.
believe
Yeah,
how
it's
Bumblebee is.
truly it's not fun.
No, it's
Like
not.
it's
No.
for my mixed feelings on the Scream series as a whole. There are some that I consider masterpieces. There are some that I consider really fun movies. There are some that I consider further and further departures, strange choices, things like that. They are all at least fun.
Hmm.
This one is not fun. Where's the fun in Scream 7? It's pretty it's pretty fucking like serious and
Yes.
dour.
Yes.
All
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I said at the beginning, it just feels like any other legacy
yeah.
sequel, middling slasher modern movie. Like there's no spunk to it. There's no spark,
Yeah.
and
No,
it's really
absolutely
disappointing.
not.
I'm gonna say this is a 2.8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll do like a 2.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean yeah, it's just yeah, no redeeming qualities. But thank you everyone for
Right.
listening to this rant about Scream 7.
Unbelievable. Highest
Whatever,
grossing
man.
film, going to be the highest grossing film of the entire series, by the way. Had the biggest opening of the entire series. Probably going to be the highest grossing, I would
I don't know.
say.
The word of mouth really gonna kill the legs on this fucking thing, Tanner.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I need to take a look at the totals of the other ones, but like it started the highest,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
who's to fucking say?
Who's to fucking say? But thanks for everyone for watching. We'll see you for Scream 8. It'll fucking
Yeah,
happen.
it's gonna happen.